A wife whispers to her mother in a kitchen that smells of fried catfish and gospel radio. "Do you think he'll find out, Mom?" Her voice trembles. "He's got that same look my daddy used to have." Right before, just outside the door, her husband stands frozen, holding a stack of plates. He says nothing. A year of secret planning, a hidden account, a marriage built on silence. What he overhears in the next 10 seconds will change everything he thought he knew about the woman he loves. My name is Quincy Thompson. I'm 42 years old, and for most of my life I've believed one simple thing: a good man doesn't announce what he carries. He just carries it. That belief carried me through 14 years of marriage, through 3 deployments overseas, through a career built on keeping other people safe, while I quietly managed my own private storms at 2 in the morning. It let me smile through Sunday dinners and never once mention the things that kept me awake at night. It's also the belief that nearly cost me everything. Some nights, long after Jamila had fallen asleep beside me, I'd lie there replaying pieces of those deployments. Not the loud parts, the quiet ones. The specific weight of silence right before something went wrong. The sound of my own boots on gravel at 3 in the morning. Half a world away from any bed. I never described those sounds to her. I told myself that keeping them out of our house was the same thing as protecting her from them. I understand now. Those were never the same thing at all. I thought 14 years had taught me every corner of my wife's heart. I thought silence was a gift I was giving her. I had no idea that while I was quietly protecting Jamila from my own war, she was quietly preparing to leave me, and that her mother had known about it for a year. By the time I found out, it was almost too late for either of us to say so. On a Friday afternoon in late September, I sat in my office on the 28th floor of a building in the Loop, looking out over Lake Michigan, holding a pen over a set of divorce papers my lawyer had drawn up that same week. On my computer screen was a contract I'd just closed, a 2-year security consulting agreement worth $340,000. The biggest win of my career. Folded in my jacket pocket was the reason I'd called that lawyer in the first place. A bank statement I'd found only a few days earlier, for an account I never knew existed. My wife's name was on it. So was a balance of $47,000. Sit with that for a second. A man who spent his whole career finding what other people were trying to hide. And I never saw this one coming. Not even a little. But here's the part that still keeps me up some nights. That account wasn't the strangest thing I found that week. It wasn't even the saddest thing. Before I tell you how a man who once cleared buildings for a living got blindsided in his own home, let me take you back to earlier that week. Because by the time I called that lawyer, my wife had already been planning her exit for a lot longer than I understood. I just didn't know it yet. It had been a Tuesday evening when it all started. Chicago does this thing in early fall, where the light turns the color of weak tea, and the wind off the lake starts reminding you winter isn't far behind. I'd left the office around 6:45, driven south on Lakeshore Drive with the window cracked the way I always did after a long day, and gotten home to Harper Avenue in Hyde Park a little after 7. The porch light was off. Not unusual. Jamila liked to save on the electric bill. One of 100 small habits left over from a childhood, where money never stretched far enough. I let myself in, hung my coat on the hook by the door, and stood a second in a kitchen that felt too quiet. There was a sandwich on a plate on the counter, wrapped in plastic, gone cold. Turkey the way I like it. Mustard instead of mayo. Next to it, a note in Jamila's handwriting. 4 words. Don't wait up for me. I read it twice, the way you do when 4 words don't quite add up to the woman who wrote them. Jamila signed almost everything, with a small heart under her initial. Grocery lists, birthday cards, even the sticky notes she left about the mail. This one had nothing underneath it. I noticed. I let myself believe it didn't mean anything. 14 years teaches you how to read the weight behind 4 words, the way another man might read a whole letter. I unwrapped the sandwich and ate it, standing at the counter, alone, at 11 o'clock at night, because some habits are older than the hurt that comes with them. That's when I went looking. Not out of suspicion, exactly. More the same instinct that kept me alive on deployment and kept buildings safe on the job. Something in that house felt off. The way a room feels off when a door that's always shut is suddenly open a crack. I found it in the bottom drawer of my desk in the study. the one I hadn't opened in months. Underneath old invoices and expired warranties was a folder I didn't remember making. Inside were years of my own bank transfers, money sent to Jamila for her marketing business startup, money sent quietly to her mother, Indira, for bills Jamila never wanted to discuss at the dinner table, 5 years of numbers laid out in my own handwriting. Proof of everything I'd carried without ever once bringing it up. My hand stayed steady reading through it. The kind of stillness you drill into your body until it outlasts whatever's underneath it. It wasn't until I closed that folder that the shake finally caught up with me. In my fingers first, then my jaw, then one long breath I had to take before I trusted myself to stand up straight again. And underneath all of it, near the bottom, was a statement for an account with Jamila's name on it that I had never seen before. Opened 8 months ago. Balance, $47,000. I sat on the edge of that desk a long time that night. Not angry yet, just tired, in a way that goes bone deep. I thought about every dangerous overnight shift I'd picked up on the south side that I never told her about. Every quiet sacrifice I made because I thought that's what a good husband does. I thought I understood my wife. I thought 14 years had taught me every corner of her heart. 3 days later, I sat in a lawyer's office on the 28th floor and had the papers drawn up. Not out of rage, out of exhaustion. A man can only carry a secret so long before he stops trusting his own house. I thought I knew my wife. Turns out I hadn't even scratched the surface. What I overheard 4 days after that, at her mother's kitchen table in Bronzeville, would tell me exactly how long this had really been coming. Sunday dinner at Indira Washington's house in Bronzeville had been a fixture of our marriage since the week Jamila and I got engaged. Fried catfish, greens cooked low and slow, a tablecloth Indira ironed every single week, whether company was coming or not. I used to love that house, the smell of it, the sound of gospel radio drifting out of the kitchen, the particular comfort of a place where nothing ever seemed to change. That Sunday, with the lawyer's paperwork still sitting unsigned in my glove compartment, I carried a sweet potato pie up the front steps, like I had 100 times before, and I had no idea. I was about to hear the sentence that would break something open in me for good. Jamila and her mother were in the kitchen, finishing the greens, while I set the table in the next room. The door between the 2 rooms was barely open, just a few inches, and voices carry different in an old house. Soft but clear, if you're standing in the right spot. "He's got that same look Daddy used to have," Jamila said. So quiet I almost missed it. Right before, "I'm scared, Mama." I stood there with a stack of plates in my hands and didn't move. The stack suddenly felt heavier than 4 dinner plates should. Behind me, gospel radio hummed low from a countertop speaker, some woman's voice rising sweet and steady on a hymn about deliverance. Completely unbothered by what was happening 20 feet away. I remember thinking it was strange, how ordinary a house could sound while something inside it was quietly ending. Indira's response came back easy, unbothered, like she was answering a question about seasoning the greens. "You remember to get everything prepared the way I told you last year." Her hands never stopped moving over that pot of greens the whole time she said it. Steady, practiced, like a woman who'd rehearsed staying calm long before she ever needed to. Last year, not last week, not since I found that statement. A year. Whatever this was, whatever conversation had put that fear in my wife's eyes when she looked at me lately, it had been in motion for 12 months before I ever opened that drawer. I set the plates down slow and quiet, and I finished setting that table like nothing had happened, because that's what I'd trained myself to do my whole life. Hold it in. Carry it steady. Don't let the room see you shake. Dinner was normal. Grace. Laughter. The same story about the church bazaar Indira tells every year. I smiled in all the right places. I drove us home. Lakeshore Drive was quiet that night. The lake black and enormous on our left, the skyline lighting up ahead of us. Jamila sat in the passenger seat, scrolling her phone, and I gripped that steering wheel so tight, my knuckles ached, saying nothing, because I didn't trust my voice not to give me away. My mind went back 3 years, to a night I hadn't let myself think about in a long time. I'd been offered a position as director of security for a firm in Houston. Double my salary. The kind of job a man spends 20 years building toward. I'd come home so excited I could barely get the words out, and Jamila had looked at me across the kitchen table, with something close to panic in her eyes. "My mother can't live without me being close, Quincy," she'd said. "You know that," and I'd turned it down. No argument, no resentment. I let her see. I called the recruiter back the next morning and told him I'd changed my mind. I told myself a real man doesn't hold his family's roots against them. I never brought it up again, not once in 3 years, because I thought love meant swallowing what you wanted for the sake of what she needed. Sitting in that car on Lakeshore Drive, I wondered for the first time whether that sacrifice had ever even registered with her at all. We drove the rest of the way in silence, the kind that isn't empty so much as full. Full of things neither of us knew how to say yet. I watched the skyline slide by outside my window, all that glass and light, and thought about how a man could stand watch over glass towers 8 hours a day and still not see the walls going up in his own home. When we got home, Jamila went straight to bed, and I sat up in the study with a cup of coffee going cold in my hands. I don't know exactly what made me open her laptop that night. It was sitting right there, unlocked, the way it always was, because we'd never had secrets between us. Or so I thought. Her calendar was full of appointments labeled only with initials. LB 4 p.m. every other Thursday, going back 8 months. I recognized the name eventually from an old insurance form in a drawer we shared. Dr. Lena Brooks. A therapist's office on the north side. 8 months of Thursday afternoons my wife had never mentioned to me. Cash payments, according to a notes app entry beside each date. No insurance claim. No paper trail a husband might stumble across on a shared account. She'd been careful. Careful in a way that told me this wasn't about privacy. It was about making sure I never found out. I sat there with the cursor blinking on an empty search bar, throat tight, feeling like an intruder in my own marriage. 14 years, and I'd never once needed a password to know what was in my wife's calendar. That night, I didn't ask her for one either. I just closed the lid, quiet as I'd learned to close everything. 3 nights later, the nightmares came back. I told you I was out. You expect me to believe that? Not when it's convenient. Just whenever the past decides it isn't finished with you yet. I woke up shouting, drenched, my hands still fighting something that wasn't in the room anymore. Jamila woke up screaming too, but for a different reason. She wasn't scared of what I was dreaming. She was scared of me. She was out of that bed and out of the house before I had even fully surfaced. I heard her car pull out of the driveway at 2:40 in the morning. She didn't come back for 3 days. When she finally did, she wouldn't quite meet my eyes, and she wouldn't tell me where she'd been, though I already knew. Bronzeville, her mother's house. The place she always ran to when she needed somewhere safer than home. I never raised my voice at my wife, not once in 14 years. Whatever she saw in me during those nightmares wasn't me. It was a shadow from somewhere else. Somewhere she'd never let me see clearly enough to understand. I didn't know how long my wife had really been preparing to leave, and I didn't know how long her mother had known everything. The surgery money, the night shifts, Houston, all of it. While sitting across from me at that dinner table every single Sunday, smiling, asking me to pass the greens. What happened 2 weeks later, in a hospital room at 3 in the morning, would answer both of those questions, and open up one I hadn't even thought to ask. I've spent my whole career making sure other people never had to feel what fear actually does to a body. So there was something almost funny, in a bitter kind of way, about waking up in a hospital bed at the University of Chicago Medical Center in Hyde Park with 3 cracked ribs and a headache like a jackhammer. Finally on the receiving end of the thing I'd spent 20 years protecting people from. It happened on a Thursday. A former employee at one of my client sites in the South Loop, recently let go, forced his way past the front desk, agitated and unpredictable. I got the building locked down and every employee out through the service exit before Chicago PD arrived. In the chaos of getting people clear of the stairwell, I was shoved hard into a doorframe and went down wrong. Nothing dramatic to look at. Just enough to crack 3 ribs and put me flat on my back for the second time in my life. The first being somewhere I don't talk about, a long way from Illinois. I remember the ceiling tiles of that hospital room, better than I remember most of that week. White, with a water stain shaped like the state of Michigan. I remember counting them because it kept my mind off the pain, and because it was easier than thinking about anything else. For a moment, my mind slipped backward, unbidden to a different ceiling. Corrugated metal, harsh fluorescent light, the smell of antiseptic, doing nothing against the smell of something worse underneath it. That memory surfaces sometimes on its own, uninvited, whenever my body remembers what stillness under pain actually costs. I let it pass the way I always did. I counted tiles instead. Jamila got there around 6 that evening. I heard her before I saw her. That particular sound of dress shoes moving too fast down a hospital hallway, and when she came through the door, her face just broke. She hadn't seen me like that in a long time. Maybe ever. Not really. I'd always been the one standing at the door with keys in hand, the one who checked the locks twice, the one who made her feel like nothing bad could get through, as long as I was standing in front of it. Now I was lying flat under a thin blue blanket with a tube in my arm. And for the first time in 14 years, she was looking at a man who couldn't protect anybody, including himself. She sat down in the chair beside the bed and cried without trying to hide it. "I'm so sorry," she kept saying, though I didn't understand yet what exactly she thought she had to be sorry for. Her phone buzzed on the little rolling table between us. I wasn't trying to look, but the screen lit up bright in that dim room, and the notification sat there long enough for me to read it clearly before she grabbed the phone and turned it face down. Safety plan. Reminder, documents ready for attorney review. My pulse didn't spike the way you'd expect. It went the other way. Slow, careful. The exact rhythm I used to talk myself into during the worst 30 seconds of a job gone wrong. Whatever was coming, I needed to hear all of it clearly, not through the fog of my own reaction, not a folder of vague notes. Documents sitting on my wife's phone, like something she'd built carefully over time, with an actual attorney attached to it. The way you'd prepare a case, not save a marriage. I didn't say anything right away. I just watched her face while she realized what I'd seen. Watched the color drain out of it. The way it does when somebody knows there's no explaining their way backward out of a moment. "Jamila," I said, quiet. "What is that?" She was shaking by the time she answered, her hands wrapped around a paper coffee cup like it was the only steady thing left in the room. "I'm scared I'm going to end up repeating my mother's history," she said. "I've been scared of it for a long time, Quincy." I didn't know how to say it out loud. I lay there in that hospital bed and let that sentence settle over me. And underneath the hurt, something else started surfacing. A memory I hadn't let myself examine too closely in 2 years. Indira's heart surgery. Coronary bypass, done quietly at a hospital on the north side. Paid for almost entirely out of a savings account I'd built up specifically for emergencies. Nobody else knew about. I told the billing office not to send a single piece of paperwork to the house. I told Jamila her mother's insurance had covered more than it actually had. I did it because I loved that woman like she was my own mother, complicated as things sometimes were between us, and because I never wanted Jamila carrying the weight of watching her mother's heart get cut open, while also worrying about how they'd pay for it. I never told a soul. Not Jamila. Not Indira. Beyond a card I'd slipped into her hospital bag, that she probably never even connected to me. And now I was lying in a bed of my own, learning that while I'd been quietly carrying my wife's entire family, without asking for a shred of recognition, she had been quietly building an exit, with a lawyer, with paperwork, month after month, protecting herself, she said, from a version of me that lived only in her fear, not in anything I had ever actually done. "I'm not your father," I said finally, my voice rougher than I meant it to. "I have never once raised a hand to you. Not once." "I know that," she said. And she meant it. I could see that she meant it. But, knowing it in her head and believing it in her body, have never been the same thing for her. Not since she was 7 years old. Her fear had never really been about me. It was about a 7-year-old girl who learned that love could turn dangerous without warning, and who grew into a woman whose body still trusted old alarm bells, over 14 years of quiet, unbroken evidence to the contrary. That secret folder wasn't cruelty. It was control. The only kind of safety she'd ever been taught actually worked. That was the first time in 14 years my wife had said anything close to the truth about her childhood out loud, and it landed heavier than any accusation could have. I didn't have the strength that night to ask her everything I wanted to ask. I just reached over, slow, careful, my ribs screaming with every inch, and took her hand. She let me hold it. She didn't pull away, but I could feel, even through that small gesture, how much distance still sat between us. Morning in a hospital room feels nothing like night. That's the kind of morning it was, when Indira Washington walked through my door at 9 sharp, dressed like she was heading to a church board meeting. A foil-covered plate of biscuits, balanced in one hand like an offering. Jamila stepped out for coffee, and for the first time in 14 years, my mother-in-law and I were alone in a room, together with nowhere else for either of us to look. She stood at the foot of the bed a long moment, arms crossed. "I owe you the truth," she said finally, "whether either one of us wants to hear it right now or not." Her voice, when it came again, had lost every ounce of the certainty I'd known her by for 14 years. "You remind me of him," she said. "Jamila's father. Not in what you do. Lord knows you are nothing like that man in what you do, but in the shape of you. Tall, quiet, steady on the surface. That's exactly what he looked like the year before he showed me who he really was." She looked down at her hands. "I pushed my daughter away from you because I was terrified of watching her live my life over again. I have regretted it for 30 years, Quincy, and I have spent the last one making it worse instead of better. You knew," I said slowly, "about the surgery money, the night shifts, Houston." Her eyes filled, and for the first time since I'd known her, she didn't try to hide it. "I knew all of it. I told myself I was protecting her by keeping it quiet, teaching her to stand on her own 2 feet, not lean on a man the way I leaned on hers, before he taught me exactly what that costs a woman. But I wasn't protecting her, Quincy. I was protecting myself from having to admit I'd been wrong about you from the very start." Jamila walked back into that room, right as her mother's hand found mine on top of the blanket, and she stopped dead in the doorway. This wasn't the same unraveling as the night before. This was something warmer, harder in a different way. The sound of a family finally choosing to stop protecting each other from the truth. She walked over slowly, pulled the second chair close, and sat down between us. And then, for the first time in 14 years of marriage, my wife told me the truth about her childhood, without stopping herself halfway through. Her father, the charm before the wedding, the control that came after, the nights her mother locked them both in the bathroom until it was quiet again. Being 7 years old, learning to read a man's mood by the sound of his key in the door. I built that safety plan because I was scared of a man who has never once given me a real reason to be scared of him, she said, her voice breaking. "And I let that fear cost you every ounce of credit you deserved for everything you were quietly doing for this family," we cried. All 3 of us, in a hospital room in Hyde Park, cold biscuits going stale on the rolling table. The machines beside my bed beeping their steady rhythm through it all. It wasn't the kind of crying that fixes everything. It was the kind that finally starts clearing space for something to be fixed. They released me on a Sunday. Jamila drove me home, slow and careful, the way you'd drive somebody made of glass. When we got inside, I saw the suitcase before she could put it away, sitting at the back of our closet, half-zipped, clothes folded with a precision that told me it hadn't been packed in a hurry. "I've walked past that closet 3 times a day since you got home," she said quietly. "I know I should unpack it. I think some part of me isn't ready to touch it yet." I didn't say anything about the suitcase. Instead, I went to our bedroom and pulled a small metal box from under the bed frame. A fireproof box I'd kept there for years. I set it on the bed and opened it. Inside were my own records, the same folder of transfers. But near the bottom, in an envelope I hadn't opened in 3 years, was a handwritten card from Indira, dated shortly after her heart surgery. "Thank you for everything you did for me. Please don't let Jamila find out it was you. She needs to learn to stand on her own, not lean on a man the way I leaned on hers." Jamila read it, her hands going still halfway through. "You paid for her surgery," she said, "and you let her ask you to hide it from me for 3 years. I did it because I loved her, complicated as things have been. And because I loved you enough not to make you carry the guilt of not being able to help her yourself." Something in her face finally broke all the way open. "I need to tell you something," she said. "That attorney notification you saw. The papers had already been drawn up for almost 2 weeks before you got hurt. I had every intention of filing, but I stood in that hospital doorway and saw you lying there, injured, because you'd been protecting people the way you always protect everybody. and I couldn't make myself go through with it. I don't fully understand why. I just know I couldn't. We sat facing each other on the edge of that bed. For a long time, neither of us reached for an argument. There wasn't one left to have. Just two people, finally looking at each other without the armor either of us had been wearing for years. What Jamila confessed 3 weeks later, sitting across from a therapist neither of us had planned on needing together, would turn out to be the truth that had been driving everything from the very start. Dr. Lena Brooks kept an office on the north side, with soft lamplight and a couch too comfortable to encourage anybody to rush through a hard conversation. Jamila had been coming here alone for 8 months. 3 weeks after I came home from the hospital, we started coming together. It was in our 4th joint session that the last piece finally surfaced. Jamila had been quiet most of the hour, twisting a tissue in her hands. Dr. Brooks let the silence sit, the way good therapists do, until Jamila finally spoke. "There's something I haven't told either of you," she said, looking at me, then briefly toward the window. "Part of that emergency account, the $47,000, some of it was mine, saved slowly over years. But a large part of it came from my mother. She'd already put a deposit down on an apartment in Memphis. 2 bedrooms, near my aunt." I sat with that a moment. "Okay," I said carefully. 8 months ago," Jamila said. "Before any of this came out. Before the hospital. And here's the part I didn't understand until last week. She never canceled it. Not after everything she said to you in that room. I asked her about it 3 days ago, and she admitted she'd been putting it off, telling herself she'd get to it. 30 years of being ready to run doesn't undo itself in one hard conversation." I didn't feel anger. Not yet. I felt the strange, hollow calm that comes right before you decide what kind of man you're going to be about something. Indira's deepest fear was never really about me failing Jamila. It was about being powerless again. The way she'd been powerless the year her own husband walked out and left her with nothing but a mortgage and a small daughter to raise alone. Keeping that apartment deposit alive wasn't malice. It was an old survival reflex, the hand that keeps a spare set of keys, hidden even after the locks have already been changed. So instead of swallowing it the old way, that Sunday Jamila and I drove to Bronzeville together. For the first time in 14 years, we sat across from Indira as a united front, instead of two people she could manage separately. We didn't yell. We didn't need to. Jamila laid it out plainly: the apartment, the timeline, the years of secrets kept in the name of protection, and asked her mother one question. "Why haven't you let it go yet?" Indira didn't have an excuse ready. For the first time in 30 years, she didn't reach for one, because saying sorry in a hospital room was the easy part, she said quietly. Actually letting go of 30 years of being ready to run meant admitting the fear was never really about you, Quincy. It was mine. I kept that apartment as insurance against my own healing, and that's a hard thing for a woman my age to say out loud. She canceled the lease that week. She started her own sessions with a counselor near her home in Bronzeville. And slowly, Sunday by Sunday, dinner at her house started feeling less like a performance and more like what it was always supposed to be. My wife and I still see Dr. Brooks every other week. Some sessions are hard. Most of them end with us a little more honest than we walked in. Her marketing business, the one my old night shifts on the south side had quietly helped get off the ground, finally turned its first real profit this spring, and she told me about it herself, out loud, at our own kitchen table, instead of keeping it to herself the way we both used to keep everything. I still carry things. That's who I am. I don't think that changes at 42. But I've learned the difference between carrying weight out of love and carrying it because I'm too afraid to ask for help. That difference has made all the difference. Some Sundays now, when I drive us to Bronzeville, Indira meets us at the door before we even knock. Tablecloth already on the table, gospel radio already playing. The same house, the same smells, but nothing in it feels like a performance anymore. It just feels like home. Finally, for all three of us, if there's a debt of love sitting unspoken in your own house tonight, a night shift, a signed check, a job you turned down without saying why, don't wait for somebody to find it by accident in a drawer the way I did. Tonight, before the dishes are cleared, tell the person you love one true thing you did for them that they never knew about. Truth spoken over an ordinary Tuesday supper. does more healing than truth confessed, only after somebody nearly loses everything.